welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and today's video is going to be a vlog for the whodunnit readathon. The whodunnit readathon is a readathon set for the month of January. I will link all of the hosts down below. The only one that I can remember off the top of my head is Naomi's Bookshelf. I think there are 3 or 4 hosts, but she's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. It is based on all of their TBR games. They all do some form of Clue as their TBR game. And so the premise of the readathon is you pick a character. I have chosen, spoiler alert, Mrs. Peacock. Is that who I chose? Or Professor Plum? Oh God, now I don't remember. I chose in December. I think I chose Professor Plum because purple is my favorite color, I think is why I did that. Yeah, so I chose Professor Plum, and my special ability is to reveal one room. The way that this readathon works is it's basically like the game of Clue, but you use each of the prompts or each of the rooms, weapons, and people to sort of create a prompt to read something based off of that prompt. So you only have to read for to solve the puzzle or figure it out. The only requirement for the readathon is that you read 3 in each category, and you can double up prompts or you can triple up prompts, but not within a category, if that makes sense. So you can read only 3 books for the whole readathon that will complete the readathon, so long as each book covers a prompt for a room, a weapon, and a person. I hope that makes sense. Again, this readathon has already happened when you're watching this, so it doesn't really matter if it makes sense because you can't participate in it anyways. So I just want to go through quickly my TBR. I do have 3 books picked out, and then I think I'm going to need 1 other book to fulfill a prompt at some point. So I just wanted to go through them really quick. So I'm reading A Girl Like That by Tanaz Bethina. I will put the cover up because this, again, doesn't have a dust jacket. But this I'm going to use for this I'm going to use it for Colonel Mustard. Because it is set in the Middle East, and that's one of the prompts for him. He was an archaeologist, I think, in the Middle East, or he did military time in the Middle East. I can't remember. They have a whole list of optional prompts or suggestions, and so this book is set in Saudi Arabia, so that's why it works for that prompt. I'm also going to use it for Conservatory because on the cover, if you see, she's wearing glasses, and glass on the cover is something that they said worked for Conservatory because it's usually a glass room with a lot of plants in it. So that's why I'm using it for that. And then for Wrench, because it's about a car accident, and I think it's 2 teenagers have died in a car accident at the beginning of this book, and then you're getting the backstory of the characters from a bunch of different perspectives. That's what the story is about. I haven't read it yet, but that's what from my understanding, that's what it is about. And so, since it's about a car accident, that's kind of a heavy subject. Oh, just kidding. I'm not using it for Wrench. I'm using it for Lead Pipe because it's a heavy subject. Those are the prompts that I'm using for that book. Second book that I'm going to be reading for this readathon is An Heir to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. This is a YA Romeo and Juliet mixed with Chinese mythology, and because it is based on mythology, I'm using it for Professor Plum because I think he studied mythology, Egyptian mythology or something, so that counts for this. I'm also using it for Candlelight because there is a light source on the cover. As you can see, it looks like light, lots of light imagery here. And then I'm also using it, just those 2 apparently. So this is the one that doesn't have a room that goes with it so far. I might try to find a room as we go along. But if there's descriptions of food, I can use it for the kitchen, for example, or for the dining room. So we'll see. And then I'm reading Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry. And for this, it has blue on the cover, so I'm using this for Mrs. Peacock. I'm also using this for Knife because it's short, and one of the suggestions for Knife was a short book. I don't remember why, but it's short. It's got a blue spine, so Mrs. Peacock. And I'm also going to use this for Lounge because Lounge was a relaxing read or something. This is so short that I feel I can read it in one sitting. So Lounge, I feel it's a perfect book for that. I do need a 3rd book for a room. So one of my bonus prompts or bonuses for picking the character that I picked was that I get a room revealed to me early. So I don't know if that means I don't need to pick another book for room. I should probably go back and watch their videos, but I'm going to figure that out at some point. But I'm also considering rereading The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara this month because I want to. That's a book set in 1980, and it follows 4 young boys who enter the drag scene, and they live in this house together, and then the AIDS pandemic happens. So it's about them like being affected and their community being affected by AIDS. It's also like a coming of age story for half of them because they're like 16, 17 when they run away from home because they're gay and they go live in this house. One of them is actually a trans woman. And so it's about her learning to express herself in drag and in like translating that to the rest of her life. It's a really, really good book. I read it in 2020, I think, so I do want to reread that. I might have read it in 2021. I can't remember when I read it, but I do want to reread that book at some point. Oh, and that would count for Ballroom because a big part of the book is them going to different drag balls and becoming like the first all Latinx drag house in New York City. And I think they're in Harlem. So since it's a drag ball, I think it fits for Ballroom. So that's why I would put that in there. So those are the books that I'm reading for the whodunnit Readathon. Stay tuned to see how I do in this readathon, how successful I am. And then also, I'm currently reading some things that I'm not reading for this or my other vlog, which my other vlog is the Buzzwordathon vlog. It will already be up. I will link it for you if you want to watch it. But I have some books that I'm not reading for either vlog. So if I find out that it fits for a prompt somewhere, I will let you know what the prompt is, and then I will talk about the book that I'm reading to fit that. I hope that makes sense. But I'm gonna go. It is Saturday, and we just went to Costco, which was very fun. We got a Costco membership for Christmas from my fiance's parents. So we just had a little Costco haul. We pretty much got like snacks and body wash and toothpaste. We got 5 things of toothpaste for like $10, which is a pretty good deal. Maybe like $8. I don't even remember how much it was, but it was very cheap. We got some bagged salads for the week. So let me know what your favorite Costco thing is because now we have a membership and we need to use it. I'm going to let you go and I will check in with you in a minute. Hello, ignore me if I look crazy or if this lighting is really terrible. I just got back from the gym, so that's why my hair looks like this. But it's Thursday, January 12th, I think. So this readathon has really gotten away from me. It's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would to read my Buzzwordathon TBR books. So I have started An Arrow to the Moon. I'm listening to the audiobook of it because I got an audiobook. I'm almost halfway through with it, and I started it yesterday. So it should not take me too much longer to read, but I wanted to update you at the halfway point so I don't forget and just give you an update at the end. So I'm really liking it so far. I don't think it's having that 5-star feeling for me, which is kind of sad because I was really expecting and hoping that this would be 5 stars, but it feels like a solid 4, if not 3.5, depending on how things go, because I feel like, I don't know how to explain it, but like parts of it I really, really like, and then other parts of it I don't really care that much about, if that makes sense. So the premise of the stories were following Luna and Hunter, who were born on the same day. They're both, I think they're both Taiwanese. At least Luna is Taiwanese. Hunter was born in Taiwan, but his family identifies as Chinese. So I don't know if a lot of this book, it's sort of starting now to delve into what it means for Taiwanese people to be Taiwanese. If you don't know that much about Taiwan, which I don't know that much about it, the bare minimum of what I know is that Taiwan sees itself as culturally independent from China and as its own nation, but China does not recognize Taiwan as its own nation. I don't know if that has changed since the last time I looked into this, but that's my understanding of Taiwan and China. But Taiwanese people are very, very proud to be Taiwanese, and they don't consider themselves Chinese. And apparently Chinese people, some Chinese people consider Taiwanese people to be just Chinese, which Taiwanese people disagree with because they feel like it erases their cultural identity. And herein lies some of the problems that Hunter and Luna's family, they don't get along. They live in California now, I guess I should say that. So both of their families moved to California before they were born. Hunter's family is in some kind of debt, trouble, that has something to do with some Chinese myth. I don't really know exactly what it is, but they were like hinting at that. Like his dad stole something that he wasn't supposed to steal, and so his family's kind of in hiding, and they don't get along with Luna's family, At one point, Luna's dad and Hunter's dad were competing for a job, I think. Or maybe their moms were competing for a job. I don't really remember what it was. But at one point, they were competing for a job. And after, like, Luna's parents got the job, you can sort of see, like, their lives have gone in very different directions. Because Luna's family is very much, like, middle class, upper middle class. And I keep wanting to call him Hector. Hunter's family is more, I don't know if they're like poor, but they're not as wealthy or as well off as Luna's family is. And part of it is because they can't have credit cards or like bank accounts or anything that would alert this family that they stole from where they are. So that's like the background information. The other background information thing is that Luna and Hunter were born on the same day, and something like mythical happened on the day they were born. It hasn't been fully explained yet, but it talked about it at the very, very beginning of the book. And Hunter, his name is Hunter, he has perfect aim. So whenever he like throws basketball, he can like sort of control the winds or the air, and it helps him like always make his shot. He never misses his target. And Luna has some power to do with light, which, I mean, her name is Luna. Luna means moon. I guess that makes sense. So she gets some sort of power from the moon. I don't know exactly how her power works, and I don't know exactly how his works either, but his is easier to, like, comprehend for me. But their families are nemesis. They met at the beginning of the book. They've now, Hunter transferred to her school. They are sort of becoming friends, and maybe more than friends. There's, like, a romantic element to this because they like each other. And I should also say they're 17. I don't know if I've already mentioned that. So they're like seniors in high school, about to go off to college, I think is what it is. Because they're talking a lot about like the application process. And it's also talking a lot about like the pressure that immigrant parents put on their children, especially East Asian immigrant families, going into a little bit of those like stereotypes and exploring that, which I think is interesting. But I'm liking it so far. I'm not loving it as much as I loved The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X. Arpan, which I've talked about before, but I am really enjoying it. So I will let you know as I have more updates, but that's going to be the end of this update.
If you're writing out, and if you reach down into the box, go ahead. I'm going to have you simply pick a pick.
This is the hard part.
That's all right. You got it. Place it right down there on the table. Now, Pen, you're going to pick a number.
Okay.
Between 1 and 52.
Okay.
I want you to choose a number that you're going to be comfortable sticking with.
Okay.
Do you have one? And for the first time, tell me and everyone else in the audience, what number are you going to choose?
47.
Hello, it is Sunday, and I wanted to update this vlog because I just finished An Arrow to the Moon while I'm making like baked oatmeal downstairs. So I'll show you that when it's ready. But I was listening to this as an audiobook, and I just finished it. And I feel bad saying this. I don't know how I felt about it. I have mentioned this before. I loved The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X. Arpan, but I don't know that this book worked as well. I'm like kind of disappointed because I thought this would be for sure a 5-star read. And okay, so I think I already talked a little bit about what it's about, but it's like a retelling of Chinese mythology mixed with Romeo and Juliet, sort of, where we have these two families who don't get along. They're like, the parents of the families have competed for different jobs at the university, and Hunter's family is really poor and they're in a lot of debt, and so they're in hiding from this like Taiwanese gang basically, somewhere in the US in Fairbridge, which, to be honest with you, I thought it was in California because there's like an earthquake at the beginning of the book, but then halfway through, or like a little more than halfway through, they talked about how like that wasn't really an earthquake because earthquakes don't happen where they live because they're not in California. So I don't know, I was confused. I don't really know where it was supposed to be. But that's Hunter's family, and then Luna's family is better off. I'm wondering if part of me didn't really like, I'm not familiar with whatever like mythology this is retelling, so I wonder if that like impeded my enjoyment of this book, but I just don't think I loved it. I mean, like, gosh, I feel so bad even saying this because it has like a really beautiful build up to this ending like moment, and it like felt really flat for me. So I'm sad about that. I think I'm between 3 and 4 stars, honestly. I might end up giving it 3 stars because I feel like it's kind of just okay, which makes me sad. But I do think it's a beautiful cover still. I read this for prompts. I think I read this for Peacock because it's blue. And whatever the light on the cover was. right? I don't know. Let me go back and look what I read that for. Hold on. So I'm going to use this for 2 prompts. A person prompt, Professor Plum, because it's based on mythology, and the candlestick prompt, because it has light on the cover, a moon, like a light source. So those are the prompts that I'm fulfilling with this. I'm going to go online and look at the form and see what else I have to do, and I can show you that because this will be over, so it's not going to be a spoiler when you see this, because the whodunnit-a-thon will have already concluded. Okay, so this is the form. I know I could screen record, but this is easier for me. So I clicked the character 1 reveal link, and this is the video that's going to show me who the character is. And then I'm going to do weapon after this as well. And let's see.
So welcome. Congratulations on reading your first character prompt. I heard your first card that has been revealed is Mrs. White, and the second card is the wrench.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do the weapon now.
The 2 cards that you get revealed are the ballroom and the kitchen.
Okay, so I did just record the videos of her revealing what was revealed, but I don't know if I'm going to include the whole thing just because it's going to make this video really long, and also I don't know if you really care, but essentially I now know how it works, so I'm going to explain it. So because I counted this as a character book and a weapon book, I was able to watch both the character video and the weapon video. And I thought it was going to be something where you like specifically ask about the character and or weapon that you were reading it for. No, not the case. So you click on the video and then she just reveals 2 cards. So the first 2 cards that were revealed were Mrs. White and the wrench. So Mrs. White is not the killer and the wrench was not the weapon used. And then the second 2 for the weapon, like the first weapon reveal, the 2 cards that she showed were the kitchen and the ballroom, which means that the crime did not take place in the kitchen or the ballroom. I hope that makes sense to you. So kind of a disappointing first read for me, to be honest, but I am glad that I read it because I did want to get to this last year and I never got around to reading it. So I'm going to have a think about what I'm going to pick up next. It'll either be Gathering Blue or A Girl Like That. And I still want to reread The House of Impossible Beauties. So we'll see if I can manage to make that work. I went to Barnes & Noble the other day hoping that I could pick it up, like a physical copy, because I am rereading it and I do really like that book and I would like to own it at some point. I didn't see it on the shelves there though, which was kind of disappointing. But if I can get that from my library, then I will reread it. If not, I will just reread it at another point because I do really want to reread it. That's it for this update, and I will let you know when I have another update, and I'll show you my blueberry oatmeal that I made once it gets out of the oven. Yum. So it's Monday, it's MLK Day. If you watch my last vlog and this positioning looks very familiar, it's because I'm filming them back to back. But I wanted to let you know that last night while I was cooking dinner, I started Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry. Did I? Yeah, I told you about the end of An Arrow to the Moon. Gathering Blue I'm reading for the knife prompt because it's short. I'm also reading it for Mrs. Peacock, I think, because it's blue on the cover. And The Lounge because it's like a relaxing read because it's short. I'm also listening to it as an audiobook, which doubles its relaxation qualities, I guess. But this book is by the same author as The Giver, which I've talked about. If you haven't read The Giver, they are not sequels at all. They're not direct sequels. They're conceptually related. So The Giver is one take on what like the future of humanity would be like. Gathering Blue is another one. So in Gathering Blue, it's a very primitive society, but it's very much in the future. Some big disaster has happened and wiped out almost all of mankind, and with it, a lot of mankind's technological advances. And so we follow this girl, Kira, and when we open up the book, her mother has died, and she's doing this ritual where she sits with her mother's dead body in a field for 4 days so that the spirit can leave the body, and then she has to go back to her village. Kira has a twisted leg, so she's not able to do a lot of the tasks that women in this village do, like garden and other things like that. Like she can't chop wood and gather it. She can't like help with a lot of the things that require like standing and mobility and walking around, because she just physically cannot do that. So she's been working with the weavers, and she has a gift for weaving. That's one of the first things we learn about her. But she goes back to the village after her mother has died, and she sat with her mom for her spirit to pass. And the other women of the village want her kicked out because she's been disabled since she was a baby. Technically, she was supposed to be brought to a field before she was given a name, because that's how her society does things. And her mother stood up for her and was like, no, we're not sacrificing her. So her mother is dead. Her dad has been dead her whole life. Her dad died before she was born. He was taken by beasts on a hunt. That's what we learn about that. And her mother always stood up for her and protected her. Her grandfather was really esteemed in the community, so that's part of the reason. But now he has passed. Her mom has passed. She's on her own. She's like 14, I think. And she's going back. They had to burn her bed because her mother was sick and died, and that's what they do, is they burn your like sleeping place. And so she's going back to build herself another cot. And these women tell her, you can't have this spot anymore, and we are going to get you kicked out of the community. And so they do, like, it's pretty much a court thing. They have these elders who are basically like, it's like a bench trial with a bunch of, like a group of judges. And the woman who is like in charge of the other women, or like the head of their decision to try to kick Kira out, tells the men why she should be kicked out. Like, she's got a twisted leg. This is not something that we allow in this society. She says she eats too much at one point, and like a couple different things. And she gets appointed a defender among the judges, and he basically looks in their like book of laws and says that there are exceptions to everything that she pointed out, and we think that Kira falls in an exception. And the reason that they save her is because they want her to come live in their like compound where like the people who work for the government basically live. And she is going to become the new seamstress for this like special coat that tells the history of all of humanity. It has to be repaired. It was her mother's job before, and they know that she's like a gifted weaver. So she's going to be in charge of it now. And she takes this like task, but there's like blank parts on it where she's going to be telling a future story of what is happening in the village since the last like pictures on the cloak. I hope this is making sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but every year they have this like ceremony where a man whose only job in the village is to sing puts on the cloak, and he also has a wooden staff that has similar like wood carvings, and he sings the song that is the history of their world, kind of. And so before Kira can mend this cloak, she's only given white string, so she has to figure out how to dye it, and she goes to the woman who lives out in the woods who trained her mother to dye yarn or threads, and the story kind of goes from there. It's called Gathering Blue because this town has not had blue thread, and I assume that she's going to figure out a way to get blue thread. Also, I assume that there's been some hints that the like talk of beasts is not real. And if you read The Giver, you know that there are secrets in The Giver's society where things are not as they appear. I don't really want to give it away because it's such a short read, but as you read that book, you start realizing things are not what they seem like. I think the same thing is happening here. I think things are not quite as they seem. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I really like Lois Lowry's writing style. I'm pretty sure she's the narrator. I could be wrong about that, but I think she is narrating her own audiobook. It's relatively short. I can probably finish it in today while I'm like doing various chores. I really want to take down, this is so embarrassing, our Christmas tree. It's time for it to come down. But I do need to film another video before I can do that. That's it for this update though. I will let you know once I finish Gathering Blue how I feel about it. But right now I'm really enjoying it. It's feeling like a very solid 4-star read. If something amazing happens, and then it might get 5 stars, but otherwise it'll probably stay at a 4-star. But I will let you know when I arrive at my decision. Okay, I will talk to you soon. Hello. I just want to pop in here and say that I finished, God, I can't believe the state of this room. Sorry that it looks like this. I just wanted to say that I finished Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It was nice and short. It was definitely not like a complicated or... It wasn't hard to read by any means. This is, I believe Lois Lowry intends, they're young adult, but it feels almost middle grade-y in the way that it's written. It's very simple sentence structure, very easy to understand prose, which is not a bad thing at all. I think these books translate really well to adults and young audiences. I think I mentioned that I read The Giver originally when I was a kid, and my brother ended up reading all of the books in the series. I never went past The Giver, but I'm glad I finally did. There are 2 other books that are considered in the Giver series. One is called Messenger, and the other one is called Something Sun, I think. I will try to put a picture of them here. I looked at it today. That's the only reason I remember. But I know that Messenger is the same thing. I sort of looked at what it was about on Goodreads, and it's the same type of thing where it's like, did I something in my teeth? Sorry. It's the same type of thing where it's like a possible future of the world if the world as we knew it kind of ended and society had to like start over, which I think is a really interesting concept. That being said, I am now only needing for this vlog, like to officially win this readathon, the only book that I need to read is Tanaz Bathina's book. What is that called? A Girl Like That. And let me see if I can remember off the top of my head what I'm reading it for, because I think I can. I know it fits for a person. I know it fits for Mrs. White because it is pink. It also fits for Colonel Mustard, I think, because it's set in Saudi Arabia, and one of his prompts is like anything set in the Middle East, because I think he served in the Middle East or something. I don't really remember. So that's good. It also fits for Lead Pipe because it's a really heavy topic. It's about teenagers who I think die in a car accident before the book starts. And so it's like hearing about the girl, because I think it's a girl and a boy who were together during this car accident, and the boy seemingly like didn't want him around the girl for some reason. And so it's about like the rumors about her, I think, primarily, but it's told from a bunch of different perspectives. And she's died. That's all I really know about it. I don't really know what it's about. And then it fit for something else too, a room. Oh, I think it's the conservatory because she's got glasses on, and that's like, conservatories are made of glass. It's kind of a stretch, but I'm going for it. So that's the last book that I have. And then that's not true because technically to complete this readathon, so earlier I said I needed to read another book to fulfill another room prompt to complete the readathon. But then I remembered the player I'm playing as, Professor Plum, he gets a room prompt just told to him, so I need to look at what that is as well. So I'm gonna probably do that. I need to edit a video tonight, so that's what I'm gonna end up doing for the rest of the night, but I just wanted to come on here and let you know my final thoughts on Gathering Blue. I kind of gave all my thoughts in the last update, but I will let you know when I have started A Girl Like That, and then also how I feel about it as it goes on. But yeah, that's it for me right now. Hi. It's the day that this video was supposed to go live, and I'm checking in to let you know that I did not finish the books that I was going to finish for this readathon. I feel like this readathon has turned into such a fail. Hold on, let me find better lighting. Give me 1 second. I feel really bad for sort of letting this fall by the wayside. Part of the problem is that I could not find an ebook or an audiobook of A Girl Like That, so I'm not finished reading that. I look like horrible right now. Okay, I'm still reading that one. I think I'm like 130 pages in, and it's like a 350-page book. It shouldn't take that long to read. I will say one of the biggest problems that I'm having with it, besides me having to have a physical book with me in order to read it, is that, so it's set in Saudi Arabia, and the names of the characters are a combination of like Indian and Saudi names. And so the other thing is they use Arabic words sometimes, and probably other languages too, like slang words. And there is a glossary in the back of the book that I just found last night, so I should have been looking at that the whole time, but that has made it more slow going because I don't know what everything necessarily means, which is fine, but it just means it's taking me longer to read. I hope that makes sense. And also, there's a lot more characters than I was expecting there to be, and I'm having a hard time following the main thread of the story. So this book is about Zarin and Porus, who live in Saudi, but I believe they are both of Indian descent. At least Zarin is. I don't know about Porus, but I think he is, based on what I can remember about what's happened. But they live in Saudi now. They live in Jeddah, I think is the city. It's the like Arabic word for grandmother in Arabic, I think. So I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but that's what it is. And the beginning of the book is they've been in a car crash and died. And the Saudi police follow Sharia, and it's like a religious tenet of law. And so basically, boys and girls are not allowed to be together. Like, if you're not related, you're not allowed to be together. You have to be, like, watched by other people. And it sounds like Zarin had a habit or a history of sneaking around with boys, smoking cigarettes, doing all sorts of things that Saudi girls are not allowed to do, which technically she's not Saudi Arabian. She's not Muslim. She is Zoroastrian, which is a religion I don't know anything about. And it sort of explains it in the book. Not really explains, but, like, mentions tenets of it, but I don't know anything about Zoroastrianism. I apologize. I don't know what religion Porus is. I don't know if it's said yet, or if I just don't know. I don't know. He may be Hindu. I'm really not sure. Because someone is Hindu. I don't remember who it is. It doesn't matter. That's the other problem that I'm having with this book, because I keep picking it up and putting it back down and picking it up and putting it back down, and because the characters have names that are different than, like, normal names I'm used to hearing, it's harder for me to associate the names with the characters. Does that make sense? Like, there's one character whose name, sometimes he's called Farhan, and other times he's called Rizvi, and it's the same guy. So I'm assuming one of those is his last name and one of those is his first name, or one of those is his name and one of those is a nickname, but I don't know. So that was confusing to figure out that those were the same person. It took me a long time to figure that out. But all of that to say, I also am not enjoying the subject matter of this book. So it starts with them being found dead, and them, like, as ghosts, sort of, or spirits, watching their bodies and watching their family members identify their bodies. And we find out that Zarin, her mother was, like, not a great person, morally speaking, for the morals of, like, India and her time. Her dad left her mom when she was pregnant with her, and they were never married, and he was, like, involved in, like, gang stuff in India. I don't really know that much about it, but she went and lived with her mom's sister, and because she looks like her mother, her mom's sister has always treated her really badly, and basically just, like, automatically thinks that she's bad. And so Zarin has started acting bad, because if her mom or her aunt is going to say that about her, she's just going to be that. But where was I going with that? They're in this car crash, and then we sort of get pieces of their backstories told through, Zarin has told some stuff through her perspective. We've also had some stuff through Farhan's perspective. We've had some stuff through a girl who goes to school with Zarin named Mishal, her perspective, and then Mishal has a brother named Abdullah who Zarin used to date. We get some stuff from his perspective, and so I'm assuming all of this is going to add up to what is, like, what caused the car accident. I remember what I was going to say now. The reason, like, one of the things I'm having a really hard time with is rape and date rape are, like, very casually mentioned and described in this book. They're not, like, graphically described, but it's described in a way that's, like, graphic enough to make me really uncomfortable with reading it, and, like, it's making it I can't read too much of it at one time, because it's just so much. And so, for me, that's definitely a downside. I do think I'm going to continue it, but I also am thinking about DNFing it for that reason. So, I just wanted to put that out there and make you very aware of that, because I was not aware that that was going to be a part of it at all. I thought it was, I don't know what I thought, but I did not think that. So for me, that's hard to read, and I don't know if I like it. But the other thing that I was going to read for this vlog that I've also started and not finished is my reread of The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara, which is a book set in 1980, or it starts in 1980, and it's basically, it's about the first Puerto Rican drag house in Harlem in New York City. In the 80s, drag culture was, like, becoming a more, like, pop culture thing, if that makes sense. And so drag balls were a really big thing, and other stuff of that nature. We primarily follow 4 main characters, I think. One of them hasn't been reintroduced, so I don't remember his name, and I'm really sorry. But we have Venus and Angel, who are essentially trans women. They are seen as men, but when they use, what's really interesting to me about this is Venus and Angel are both involved in the drag community, like, very heavily, and, like, participate in balls, and I think Angel is one who becomes, like, the house mother of the House Extravaganza, which is their drag house, but she uses she pronouns. But the author does this thing where, like, when she is referring to other people's perception of her when she was younger, she will use her, like, former name and use he, him pronouns. and it's just a very interesting writing style. I don't think I fully like grasped what was happening when I read this the first time, but it's just really interesting the way that it all plays with like gender and gender identity, because when I read this the first time, I was not sure if these were actually trans women or what was going on. And I think part of the reason that it's like not entirely sure, they do, two of them live their lives entirely as women, and then the other two live their lives as, I want to say men, but I think they're like 16, so like boys basically. And one of them's name is Daniel, and I don't remember the other one's name right now. So I'm not sure. But I don't think he's been introduced, because the way it introduces each character, and we get a few like years of their life before they find the house, the drag house, and like their community, and how they get involved with it. And it's a really, really moving, beautiful book. I really love it. Lots of kind of sad things happen. It obviously is set in New York in the 80s, and it primarily follows gay men. So you know what that means. It means the AIDS crisis is happening, and there is a lot of fallout in dealing with that, which is something that I find very powerful and moving to read about. So I'm enjoying my reread of it, as I expected to. But I did just want to come on here and apologize that I never finished this vlog. I don't know who the people were on Clue for this readathon. I feel so bad that I failed this so badly, but I do apologize. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you watched to the end, leave the magnifying glass emoji down below. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!